So this first topic, I feel right down your alley, Michael, because we are getting a lot of internet buzz over this story. So it's blowing up online because Taylor Swift, she is blasting on Twitter the lead singer of Blur, that's Damon Albarn, for telling the LA Times, this is what he said to the LA Times, he said she doesn't write her own music alone and that being a co-writer is not the same thing. So she tweeted at him and she says, yeah, indeed, I do write all my own songs and your comments are false and damaging. So guess what? Backtrack. He later apologized, saying his words were taken out of context. So let's talk about this. Like, this is inside baseball stuff, but this is your world, Michael. The idea of artists or solo artists writing their own music. Like, you know, she came at him pretty hard. Was that warranted? And what's the deal? Is it that important?
Well, Damon is either the most brave human being I've ever seen, or the least swift, pardon the pun. You just don't mess with Taylor. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. And was he right? No. But you know, the funny thing is I've had a bunch of hit songs in my life. Home, Everything, Lost, Haven't Met You Yet, Beautiful Day, a lot. People don't know this, but Jan Arden wrote all of them. I'm basically just a puppet of Jan Arden. And most of the things that I do, if they're good, it's Jan. So I'm cool with people taking, doing whatever. And the truth is, if you really want to get deep, my dream would be watching Taylor Swift somehow get into a marriage or relationship with Adele, and then they break up. Because we would have the greatest music you had ever heard in your life.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Yes.
You've left us speechless.
It's a great idea.
You've left us absolutely speechless.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that incredible art that would be produced. But Michael, you've done some covers, like a couple in your life. That doesn't make you less of an artist. You don't think that, do you?
No, of course not. I mean, the hardest thing in the world is interpreting music. If everyone could do it and somehow express themselves and get that sense of emotion across, we'd all be, every karaoke singer would be famous. I mean, my favorite artists of all time, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Davis, they didn't write any songs. I think Frank wrote one. And so so my favorite, that didn't make them less of artists. I mean, it takes a special sort of human being to be able to emote that way and to put songs across. And so there's a talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the industry, you're right, Michael. I think there are multiple ways to interpret music, and there are a lot of things that go into a good song. Like, of course, I'm all behind Taylor here. I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about, but a good song also requires a good performer. And we have had countless major hits in history that were performed by people who didn't write them. Like, Michael, you talked about all the songs that Jan's written for you, but also, think about Sinead O'Connor and Nothing Compares to You. It's a song written by Prince. That is a song, really, that we know Sinead's version. I'm not saying Prince couldn't do it better or whatever.
Don't you start with that.
I'm not saying that.
You're going.
But I'm saying the signature version of that song is Sinead's. Everybody knows this. Same goes for Dolly Parton, a prolific songwriter. The signature version of the song, I Will Always Love You, is not Dolly's, it's Whitney Houston.
It's interesting that you bring up Prince, because my brain went to Prince as well, who obviously was a prolific songwriter and performer, both. And there's a great story that Alicia Keys told, I think it was to Jimmy Fallon. Anyway, when she was going to release her first album, she wanted to do a cover of a Prince song that you will all know because of Alicia Keys, I feel like, which is How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore. It's such a great song, but Prince's version is the best, just as a side note. Anyway, Prince doesn't normally let people do covers, or he's very reticent to. There's a few examples. So he made her show up at Paisley Park Studio to basically perform it in front of him in order for him to allow her to use it on his album. And the one thing he said to her was, you have to promise me to continue to do your writing and your own producing. And I think the reason why he said that was because I think there's a lot of power that goes along with obviously writing. There's more, obviously there can be more financial benefits to it. I mean, there's something in there to that, like having a little bit of piece of the writing as an advice for an artist.
Well, sure. I mean, listen, I'll be really honest with you. I wrote, say, Home. Home was me sitting in a shower in Italy, and I wrote the song. It came to me very quickly, and it became a small hit for me. But then Blake Shelton covered it, and he had his first #1 at country with Home. And at the same time, about 6 months later, Westlife in England, they covered it, and they had a #1 hit with it. And it genuinely bothered me that years up till now, people will say, I love your version of Blake Shelton's Home, or I love your, and it's like, and it will bother me because I'll go like, whoa, I wrote that. And so there's the part of the ego. Listen, and just as a performer, I'm being really very transparent with you. It's really important for me when I talk to a journalist, when I do a big interview, for them to make sure people understand that I'm a songwriter. I wrote those songs. I didn't co-write those songs. Those songs came from me sitting on a piano, probably being pretty wasted, but nevertheless, doing what I had to do to sort of bring it to life, to give birth to it. And because many times there's this confusion, especially because of the kind of artist I am, where they see me as that modern day, say, Sinatra, or this interpreter of the Great American Songbook, and they'll often overlook, you write too, and it's like, yeah, because there's there's a lot of gravitas that comes with it. By the way, I'm not name dropping, but I had a really nice conversation with Ryan Reynolds about the other parts of our life as an artist. And that I told him that seeing him have the success he's had in his business, it gives me even a greater sense of respect for him. And as a human being, as an artist, there is a deal of gravitas that comes with the fact that he's not just a wonderful, funny guy or a great performer or a great actor. He's also a talented businessman, who has acumen for that. So those things all, I think they add to your legacy. I really do.
And I love your perspective because you're right there in the middle of it. I'm just curious before we go to break, is there an added layer for Taylor for a couple of reasons? Because she has long discussed the misogyny that women still are facing in different facets of the music industry. We know that she has had this historic fight over ownership of her own catalog and ownership of her own music with like really big names and having to re-record stuff. So do you think she came out swinging the right way? Did she hit the right tone to be like, I'm actually going to put up some healthy boundaries here, Damon, because P.S. also maybe the subtext is women still don't get the same darn credit on the street in the music industry.
Yeah,
well,
that is true.
Yeah, obviously, I can't speak for her. I'm not a woman, but I love what I love it. I love standing up for yourself and doing what you think is right, and especially when it could be at the cost of your career or success, and you still feel, no, this is how I feel about it. This is important to me, and I think she has integrity.